Um, yeah, so here we're gonna talk about chapter 10, files and exceptions. So basically, when it comes to files, here with this code, the goal is basically to basically show a message right in a different file using this code over here. So we're gonna use file paths as well to do that. But firstly, um, what I did here is I used basically say imported a class named path from the pathlib module. So it's a pre-existing module within Python already. And here basically creating the file and writing the content. So we have this instance over here using the path class, and within the parameters, basically the name of the file is passed in here. And over here we use write text. Basically what this method does is it writes the text right that we want, and it displays it in the text file. So what I should have mentioned at first is first I created a text file over here named learning Python, right? What this text file is going to do is whatever message is displayed in parameters here and whatever message is printed, right, is going to be shown in the text file automatically. So because I passed learning Python here, it'll show there. And yeah, over here basically we're creating a variable where the text is basically stored. And when we print content, which is the variable that contains the text that is stored, when you print that, basically what happens is when I go to the learning Python text file, it shows this message here, learning Python. That's because it's stored in that variable contents. And firstly, I stored it in this parameter, and this was basically stored in the contents variable. So I went on to modify the code further, right? And basically, basically just changing the message in the text file. So in order to do that, firstly, just writing this line of code, which is the instance, and then using the write text method again, but displaying a different string. So here we have a different string, and when I do that, it shows here a different string, but it actually creates a new text file with a different message in it. So that's the modification that I made. And then I went on to with the goal of adding new strings or new messages to the existing text file that I created. So in order to do that, we say with, which is something I researched today. It says with file path, right? So using the file path, I open the file, and basically using mode equals a, I append. So essentially adding to the file, right? And when I add to the file, I'm adding this string over here. So when I do that, I say write. I use dot annotation, write, and I put the string that I want to add. And basically, when I do that, it shows here, you have such an amazing pair of shoes, and then it shows the second string that I added as well. Reason being is because I passed those strings in parentheses over here. So that's basically with files, and yeah, basically transferring all those messages to the text file immediately using this code and using the pathlib and the path class from the pathlib module. Then exceptions, right? So basically here in this activity, so exceptions basically is just for error handling, right? So it's just to handle the errors that are potentially there in your code. So we have this function, I have this function add numbers, And basically sorry this block of code, try, right, is basically to check if there's errors. So it's basically to test if you have an error here, right, then something will happen. And what that is once you have an error in your try block, then you jump into your accept block here, and what happens is this is displayed because you have an error in the input. So essentially in this try block we have two inputs that are basically saying enter the first number, enter the second number, and it adds those numbers and it prints that result, right? But you have to add a number, not a value, not a string. So here it says enter your first number, 6. But let's say I use a string instead. That's an error in my code, right? That's an error in my input. So when I press enter, what happens is it jumps in, it prints this error, please enter valid numbers only. That's how the error handling works with exceptions. It jumps into the accept block here and it prints error, please enter a valid number only. So that's the first activity I did with exceptions, and then basically just calling the function and then everything works there. Then I went on to modify the accept block, which is this one here. Basically the goal was to modify the accept block to fail silently if either file is missing. So basically to not display a message that there's an error. So all I did is I put pass over here instead of putting print error, please enter valid numbers only. I put pass here, and what that does is just the program continues. It doesn't alert you that you have an error, and then just calling that function there. So yeah, if there's an error there, it doesn't show basically in the terminal. So when I put the wrong data type in the try block, then it doesn't display the message because I put pass over here. So that's how I modified that. And yeah, that's basically files and exceptions as well. So yeah.